Were you a fan of UK Gladiators back in the 90s? Well, in this video I take a look at the action figures and the playsets that were released by Hornby. Hello and welcome to Retro Toys TV. On this channel I produce videos all about collecting retro toys from the 80s and the 90s. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. In this video I am talking about the toy line from the UK TV show Gladiators. Now Gladiators ran from 1992 to 1996. It was arguably one of the most popular Saturday evening TV shows that ITV ever produced, and I didn't know until very recently that it had a toy line. You see, I found these toys when I was searching eBay for something completely different, and I was intrigued mainly because they're made by Hornby. Now, if you didn't know who Hornby are, Hornby is traditionally known for making model trains, and when I first saw that this Gladiator toy line was made by Hornby, it kind of piqued my interest because I've never heard of Hornby making anything other than trains. Was it something that was brought over from the US, American Gladiators toy line? I don't think so. There is one image that I found from the Gladiators TV website, which is a massive fan site for Gladiators. They had one image on their Twitter account from many years ago with some concept art for the toy line for the UK, which kind of leads me to think that maybe they didn't replicate the images and the models from an American Gladiators toy line. I do know from some of my investigations that the UK Gladiators toy line did replicate its models for other international Gladiators toys. So obviously it was the UK that was spawning some more of this merchandise as it went out to different countries. Certainly that models how the TV show went. The American Gladiators was the first ever, but arguably the UK Gladiators brought the Gladiators concept to the rest of the world markets. If you know how Hornby got the license for the UK Gladiators toy line, stick a comment in the comments below because I really want to find out more information about this. And without further ado, let's jump in and have a look at not only the action figures but also the playsets that I have got in my collection. The first thing I notice about these action figures is actually how tiny they are. They're actually about 4 inches tall when you actually kind of look at them, and are sort of really thin when compared to other action figures of sort of that era. And yeah, I think this is what intrigues me so much about this toy line. Is it's completely unusual, it's completely different from what you were getting from other toys from the sort of late 80s, early 90s. The figures come with basic movements. You have the hands which move up and down, and the heads which sort of move from side to side. The bodies swivel, but that's it. They all come with the holes in the feet so that you can attach them to the various playsets like Duel, which we've got coming up very soon. One of the big questions is, as always with stuff that is recreated from live TV shows, is do they look like the Gladiators they were created to represent? And actually I think the answer is yes, they do. Take a look at Shadow here, for instance. This guy was absolutely ripped in real life, and if we look at his muscles, specifically the veins on his muscles here, you can actually see that yeah, there's been a little bit of detail into these kind of muscular gladiators, rather than just be sort of generic muscle bound standard straight out the mold action figures. They are built and designed to look a little bit like their counterparts. I showed you Cobra earlier, and Cobra was always quite a happy, smiley, happy-go-lucky kind of gladiator, and this guy's got a little smile. Look how happy he is. Wolf always looked a bit grumpy, and they've got the likeness of Wolf off pretty well with those facial features there. I think my favourite actually is this one. It is the female contender, and she just looks absolutely super happy to be there. Yay, I'm a contender in Gladiators, yeah. Now, I have down here one of the boxed versions of the Gladiators, so you get an idea of what was in the box. You've of course got the carded action figure, you also got the trademark of UK Gladiators of the Pudel stick, and you also got 2 helmets. You've got the dual helmet and you've got the sort of other contender helmet that was used in things like Hang Tough and other games like that. What's really interesting for me is the artwork that was on these cards. It's quite unusual for toys of real people to, instead of having photographs from promotional photographs from the series or things like that. It was artwork done like this. Likewise, on the back, you had artwork of the different action figures you could get. So rather than having pictures of the action figures like you had for some of the playsets, these were actually, again, drawn artwork. Speaking of playsets, I'll come to them in a minute, but there was a number of different playsets. You had Duel, which was one of the most popular games. You had Atmospheres, you had the Danger Zone, and you had a sort of combination pack of Atmospheres and Danger Zone in one kind of thing like that. There were 2 series of the action figures produced. Series 1 had Shadow, Wolf, Saracen, Cobra, Warrior, Jet, and the 2 contenders, whereas Series 2 added to those action figures and included Zodiac, Panther, Trojan and Hunter. Also in Series 2 we got some additions to the bigger toy playsets, which included 2 Gladiators Danger Zone style foam type Nerf guns. I have never seen them for sale anyway, so I probably can go out on a limb and say they are the most rarest items that you can get in this Gladiators toys collection. So if you've got one of them, they're probably worth a fair penny on the Gladiators collector's market. As I said before, there are a number of different Gladiators playsets. I have 2 of them here for you right now. The first one, if I just gingerly hold him up, is Duel. Duel was the very iconic battle game from Gladiators where the contenders had to try and knock the Gladiators off their podium and with poodle sticks, and likewise the Gladiators had to do the same to the contenders. This is a very delicate playset where you move the handles, which moves the action figures like this, which actually works reasonably well. Likewise with the Likewise, if I were to switch hands, the contender moves like this. This one actually has stood the test of time. It's obviously made of plastic. It's a little bit kind of worn in different areas. It's a little bit rickety, and the action figures kind of, as I showed you earlier, have all the little holes in their feet, and it kind of moves them around. And actually, once they're securely locked in, you get an idea of how they might have... Whoa, there we go. You get an idea there of how they might have worked. Right, so let's move this to one side, and we'll pick Wolf up later. Next up, we have something slightly bigger. This kind of dwarfs me, so let's move this down. We have the Wall. The Wall was the climbing wall game where the contenders started out at the bottom. They had, I think, a 10-second head start, and then the Gladiators would chase them up. The concept was the contenders had to get to the top before the Gladiators pulled them down. This is a really, I'm going to put it down here, this is a really intriguing piece. When I got it, these strings, which is the original cord, was all tangled, and I'll tell you now, you no idea how long it took me to untangle all this. So the concept is you put a gladiator in his harness like so. These are fiddly, I tell you what, not an easy thing to do. So I'm not gonna lie, as I sit here and probably fast forward this. Right, I've done it. So the concept of this game, a little bit different to what you saw on the TV. You don't have a gladiator chasing a contender. You just have one of the figures in his little harness, and the concept is, I just lift him up. You've got a colour-coded little winder handle that corresponds with the harness, and the concept is you start at the bottom, and it is the first person to wind your little man all the way right at the top, and yeah, Cobra wins. Woo! Oh, he's got stuck. Oh. And he comes down again like that. So you see, took a little time to get him kind of clipped in, but when you get him clipped in, it's not a bad concept, even if I do say so myself. So I spend the next 2 hours on clipping him. Oh, look at that, first time. I like this one because it's different, it's big, and you can obviously take it apart. I think the concept of the core, the string, is a very clever way of doing things, but I also can see from first hand how easy it would be for it to get tangled up, especially if you were putting it in out of storage to play with on a different day. Not a bad little set there. Right, there we go. There is my look at the Gladiators action figures and playsets. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Did you have any of these toys when you were a kid watching Gladiators growing up? Likewise, do you know how Hornby acquired the license for these toys? Because I really would like to know. Stick a comment in the comments below and let me know what you think. If If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. I'll be back soon producing more Retro Toys TV videos. Until then, cheerio for now, bye bye.